Hello, I'm NnelGdaBandit, and this is my second stream for creating a space shooter prototype. I'm just gonna jump right in. So when we last left our prototype, it was we had, let me just apply. We had our little ship moving around. Enemy ship coming at us, and we can shoot bullets like this. Couple things I changed real quick was I just changed the enemy ship so it looks different, and then I just adjusted the background values a little bit so it wasn't as pixelated, so it looks a little better. So the first thing I want to get into is prefab pooling. So right now, whenever we shoot a projectile, we are creating a new one, and these go on forever. So they will go on forever because nothing's destroying them or whatever. So they're going to keep everything's in here is going to be constantly updating, and that's no good because that's very inefficient. So one thing we could do on the projectile to make it I'm going to open the projectile class, Visual Studio open. First thing we can do to make it so that it's a little better in the sense that we won't have a million of these running at a time, is we can just destroy it. If Visual Studio opens. Okay. So Unity has this function called this message that it sends. Void on render. No, on. Nope, that's not what I want. On became invisible. So I can just destroy. I'll destroy GameObjects. This is another Unity message on became invisible. Essentially, when it leaves the camera, it will destroy itself. Let's try it out. One thing to note by using this function is that any camera counts as seeing it, so it won't, like if you look at it in the scene, it's still gonna stay visible, but when it leaves that camera, it should get destroyed. But let's try it out. So you can see that I'm starting them up and they go away. You can check right here. I create a bunch of them and then they're going away. So that's marginally better, but it's still not great because something called garbage collection, and because allocating them takes some time. Yeah, so let's make this better. Okay, I'm gonna pause the stream for 1 second. So we are going to make it better by doing something called prefab pooling. This is game object pooling. Which is a way way we can save all those allocations and stuff. We don't have to keep, instead of allocating it, since allocations are slow, we don't have to allocate every time. We can just reuse. Do that real. Okay. So let's get on it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna recycle these projectiles. Let's create a new folder here called object pooling. Let's create a new class called the let's call it prefab pool. Okay. And all of this is going to be, all this is going to do is create, this is going to be a pool per prefab essentially type. So we're going to have a public GameObjects prefab, and then we're going to have a function that's going to return a game object, and it's going to be called let's call it create instance. Okay, and then we can also, let's add a vector 3 for position and a quaternion for rotation. So this is all this is going to do is do what we're doing here, which is calling instantiate, but this is more of a generic version. So let's take this. We can do a type version too. Well, let's do this generic version first. So this is the prefab that we're going to use, and it's going to take this position and this rotation. I've written this code a couple times, but it's good code to know. So that will, whenever we call create instance for this pool, is going to create a new instance, which is not good because we want to be able to, reuse. So the way we're going to do this is we need to create some sort of like container. And I'm going to make it a stack of game objects. And we call this the pool. So the reason we're using a stack and not a list is for lists we'd have to we'd have to remove from the end, and that's all we really care about. So like a stack, it just makes sense because that's essentially what it does. It removes from the end. If you remove from a list, like in the middle or in the beginning, it takes a longer time to reorder it because you have to push everything up in memory and stuff. So this is a better data structure for this scenario. Okay, so let's make this a game object. I'm gonna call this instance. So we're creating this instance. We're gonna want to, in this case, we don't want to add it to this pool, right? That's true. So we want to say if they're the pool dot count is greater than 0, then we don't even want to create the instance, right? We want to say else. Because here we just want to get the instance. So I can be like GameObject equals pool dot pop. Pop the first one off. And so that will have an instance, and then we can set, we're going to want to set the instance position rotation dot position transform dot position equals position instance dot transform dot rotation equals rotation. Okay, so, and then both of these are going to return the instance anyway, so instance. So I don't even need to do this here, I can just return this. Okay. So if pool count is greater than 0, then we want to pop one off from our pool and then set the position and rotation. So if it's less than 0 or equal to 0, then we're just going to create a new one. So now let's see how we return it. So there's going to be a public void return to pool, let's call that T, I spelled that wrong over here, T-U, yeah, GameObject instance, right? So we're gonna, here we're gonna call pool dot push instance. So all we're going to do is return that object to the pool. So there's no like guarding or anything. Like you could theoretically call this with the wrong function and get the wrong. You could call this with a different, you know, instance created from a different prefab or whatever, but that's okay. It's not really a big issue because I don't think that happens very often. Okay, so that's the main pool. So now we need something to manage the pools so that we can call this wherever, pretty much wherever we want, because we're going to use this all over the place. Pool manager, let's just call it that for now. And all this is going to do is kind of wrap up these pools. So what we're going to do is create like a lookup of all these different pools that we have. So let's do it. So public, I'm going to make it a dictionary. So if we have a lot of different types, you know, this will be a pretty quick lookup. Pools. Okay. And then we're going to go public void create. We're just going to call pretty much the same thing, cross off the same thing we did here. Because essentially this is going to handle the pool getting and the only thing is that we need the actual game object, the prefab. Okay, so we also want to return it as a game object, not a void. That's why it's complaining. So let's create, so assuming pools, so first what we want to do is check to see if it already exists in the pool. So if pools dot contains key, no, we want to do a try get value actually, and the prefab's a key, and the out is a prefab pool. Prefab pool, so pool, so out pool, right? So if we get a pool, then it already exists. So instead of so then we can just call pool dot create instance with the prefab and the position, with the position and the rotation, because it already knows what prefab it should be. Because if we don't have a pool, then we're going to create a new one. So let's see, let's make a constructor for a pool. So actually, yeah, this doesn't need to be a mono behavior because these are not going to exist in the Unity components. These are going to be just, you know, in regular C#, and because of that, we have to code the engine.object.instantiate. What if we can just do this? I forget. This might be a little cleaner. But because this was called public prefab pool, and it's going to take in a game object called the prefab. And so this constructor will just set the prefab, so this is the only constructor there is for it. So when we call pool equals new prefab pool, we're going to pass in the prefab. So now we have a pool. And so we can call pool create instance. So this looks like we can simplify this and just return. So, and also change this to be if we don't get one, we create a pool. Otherwise, it'll be filled out anyway for us. So let's simplify this code to be a little bit smaller. So, okay, so if we can't get a pool, then we create a new one. And then whatever pool we got, we call create instance and return the instance. And then let's do the same thing for this public we're going to call return to pool object instance. So this all this is going to do is the same thing. Actually, no, we can't do it that way because we don't have the actual pool. So we need to know what pool it is. So do that, we're going to have to make sure the prefab itself can keep track of it, right? Because the pool is not keeping track of the pool's only keeping track of who's in it and not out of it. So whatever it is needs to keep track of the pool. So let's make a little script here called pooled object pooled instance. Okay. So, pooled instance here, we're just going to keep track of the prefab public prefab pool. And this will be a mono behavior because we're going to have to keep track of it. So let's look at this. So on return the pool, we probably want to do instance. Oh, no, that's too late, actually. On return its pool for the pool manager, we can go instance.get component. Pooled instance. Oh, no. Right. Pooled instance component equals. And then we can go pull this. Pool dot. Or I can create a function in here that handles it. I can put public void. Now void. Turn to pool. And all this will do is call pool. Turn the pool GameObject. And this will just call that. So we'll not have to even think about it. This is a void because we're just returning the object. Okay, so now wherever we use this, we can just call, create instance whenever we want to instantiate something and return the pool whenever we want to return it. So this is going to be used instead of instantiate, this is going to be used instead of destroy. And then, yeah, so one thing is we have to put this on all of our prefabs that we want to pool. So in the prefab pool here, there's a couple ways we can do it. We can just add it to the component itself, which would be good for things where you want to like manually reset it. You could do some you can make this virtual or manually reset it. But for now, I think I'm going to add it on instantiation. So in here, I'm just gonna do this, and then I'm just gonna do instance, add component, prefab, I'm sorry, pooled instance component right there. And then pooled instant component. Right. And then we can say, hey, pool, you equal this. And then we're still going to return the instance. And now we'll just know about it. So just like that, that should work. This needs to be a mono behavior. And yeah. What is next? So this should work. One thing is here is this is a mono behavior. We really don't want it to be a mono behavior. We want to be able to access this anywhere essentially. So let's not make it a mono behavior. Let's make it a singleton public static prefab pool manager, call instance equals new This will allow us to access this anywhere, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. Because there's always going to be a static instance from here. Because as soon as it's going to happen right away. So if we look at the projectile shooter code now, we don't want to call this anymore. We want to call what we just made. So another thing we can do in the here is we want to call return the pool. But you see how this is typed to the actual component type. I think we should do that too for the prefab pool manager here. So another, this is generic GameObject version, and we'll create a type version. So we can do public T for the type. Call it create instance. We want to be T, and we want this to be T prefab vector 3 turn in. So where was it? Where T is a component. Hope I got that all right. Yep, looks good. So essentially we want to do this stuff. Call this function. I think we can get away with this. Yeah. Just call this function with prefab dot GameObject position quaternion. I'm sorry, position rotation. Okay. And that will give us a game object. Instance equals. And then we can do return get component sub C. So, I did that thing again. So the reason we want this is because a lot of times I use the component as a prefab, because a lot of times when you don't really just create game objects, you tend to create something and then you want to instantiate it with some data. So this will make it simpler. So I'm constraining this type T to be a component, which is like I think the most base class of a Unity component. And we'll give it a shot. So in here, so we got prefab pool manager dot instance dot create instance sub T, and boom, that's all we have to do to fix it, to change it. And then in the projectile class here, we're going to call dot instance dot return to pool, and we're going to pass in the game object. Now let's try this out. This will almost work. There's some stuff we still will have to change. And I'll show you what's going to happen. Boom. So we have two projectiles created. They went off screen, so they're technically back in the pool. So if I shoot another one, we shouldn't create another one. Oh, but we did. Why did we create another one? Is this being... Oh, now we have to debug it, because maybe this is not working correctly. Return the pool. Pooled instant component. Game objects. Let's make sure those components are getting set. So there is a pooled instance component on there. They all have them. Create instance prefab UI. Pool create instance. Let's look in here. Maybe I'm doing something. Instance equals pool.pop. Otherwise we're going to instantiate. Add component pool instance. So it looks like, it's never getting returned. So, well, I'm gonna skip ahead here because the next thing I was gonna do was make it so the game object gets disabled. So this will be a good test. So whenever it's returned, we'll disable it. And whenever we give it back, we'll enable it. And that will tell us if, if the objects are actually getting disabled, returns the pool. Yep, they are. So that return to pool is getting called. What did I mess up? I do create instance. Oh, I never add it. That's what I never add the pool to it. So here we go. If we get out the pool, if we don't get out the pool, we're making a new pool, but we're never adding it to this pool. So pools.add, and we want to use the prefab as a key and the pool. Oh, that was very easily to overlook because we're never getting a correct a pull out of it. So now when we compile, we should get something. Give it a shot. They're off the screen. They're disabled. Oh, look, they work. Boom, boom. See how there's only two? Because when they go off screen, they get disabled, and then we shoot them again, they get recycled. So I shoot a bunch, so go off screen, they're gonna get disabled, and then I can shoot a bunch more, and they will keep coming back. And now we're not doing all these instantiates and all these destroys. We're just disabling it and recycling, which is great for performance. What about the music? There you go. I just added the pretzel music or whatever for streaming, and I wanted to be some ambient music going on, and I guess it paused or something. Cool. So now that we have prefab pool working, we can move on to something else. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. I'm also happy to answer any questions or comments below. Thanks so much for watching.